Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be going to a brand new location to photograph some sunset photos as the conditions this evening are looking very promising. But we'll get into the details of today's shoot in just a moment. First, I'd like to apologize for the lack of videos over the past couple weeks. I did have a video planned all about printing, my experience with printing as a novice in that field, my experiences, my thoughts on the whole process, and some advice I might give to somebody who is just getting into printing as well, and also going over and showing you guys the photos that I currently have printed. But one of my most recent photos that is actually available for sale on my website, Serenity, link to my website below, is currently being framed right now via a custom framing shop, a local one, and it's not ready yet. It's taking a lot longer than I would expected it to be ready. So I don't have that photo in my possession currently, and it has delayed me being able to work on that video because I'd like to have that print framed and ready to show to you guys in the video, but I obviously don't have it yet, so haven't been able to film the video. So that is kind of the status on the print video, but it is still something that I will be very happy to make and upload on this channel for you guys. But today we are going to be going to a new location, a location I've never been to before, kind of in the spirit of the last vlog, where we went to Gallagher Pier and ended up getting some amazing photos like Serenity and Pillars, some great shots, some of my most favorite shots I think I've ever taken thus far. And it just kind of went to show how going to new locations that you've never been to can often yield some very good results. So I want to try my hand at that again. We're going to another sort of local spot. It's only about 20 or 25 minutes away. Living right on the shores of Lake Erie does have its perks. So this place is not so far away. I think it's called Cattaraugus Creek Harbor or Hanover Beach Park. It's got a couple different names, but we're going to be going there as there's a really nice break wall. I'm not exactly sure what it's called, but it's a nice feature that goes out pretty far into the lake, and we could even walk on it, although it is currently 29 degrees and it's very windy, which I imagine there will be lots of waves and that will mean ice. So we probably won't be able to walk out on it today, but I'd like to be able to go there and scout it out and possibly just take some nice photos there because I think it'll offer some nice leading lines and just a nice bit of foreground element in the photo, because one thing about photographing the lake is oftentimes it's tough to anchor the photo to something because if you usually just have beach, water, and sky, right? It's not super interesting as some of the photos I've taken that have really strong foreground elements. So I like this place because it has that going for it. And we'll see if that actually ends up being the case, right? I've never been there before. So we're going to scout it out. I am going to get there a lot earlier than I would typically for any sunset shoot. I've actually spent a decent amount of time on Google Maps. And this is a great tip I would recommend to any photographer. If you are looking to check out places to photograph, Google Maps is a fantastic resource. I just came down here on my computer and went on Google Maps and just, went to the satellite view and just, kind of scrolled along the shores of Lake Erie and looked for potential places that looked promising. And I would click on certain places, look at the photos that people have posted for those particular areas to kind of give me a better idea. Using the street view is great because you can even just look around the particular area, see what the parking is like, see how busy it is, all those particular things, so that when you get there, there really isn't so many surprises. In fact, I even used that on the Letchworth vlog. I was able to use the street view and some of the trails there, and that ended up being very helpful to kind of decide where I would be when I got there at sunrise again, so I wouldn't be wasting time trying to find a good composition when I got there, since I had already virtually scouted it out prior. So I'm using that same technique today to kind of get dialed in where I want to take my photos. And of course, I'll be bringing you guys along with me for the journey. I do apologize in advance for potential wind noise. The dead cat that I have does not fit this microphone, so we're just gonna have to bear with, I guess. It'll be better than the Osmo audio quality in that first vlog that I posted. That was really bad. And I won't be bringing that camera because I don't think I'll need it. I'll just be bringing my Sony ZV-1 point and shoot camera that's very lightweight, and I think it works very well for vlogging. It does take some great video as well. It's not raining out or anything like that, so I don't have to worry about it getting damaged from weather. But yeah, very excited. I think it's going to be a really great sunset tonight. I've already checked the weather. The clouds outside look great. It's just really windy and cold. So if we can get past that, we should hopefully be able to get some good photos, or at least a good idea of a new place that we can add to the list of places that I typically go to get great sunset photos. Having more options is always better, and I think this one's going to be promising. The sun sets in about an hour and 20 minutes, so I think that'll give us plenty of time. It's going to take me about 20 or so minutes to get there. It gives me about an hour to mess around with different compositions and get set up in advance for what I think, again, will be a very promising sunset. Out on location at Cattaraugus Creek Park. I think that's the name of the place. I'll put it up on the screen in editing, but it is extremely windy here and it is extremely cold as well. But there is a lot going on here. There's plenty of driftwood, and I apologize if you can barely hear me. Plenty of driftwood. We do have that break wall over there as well, which looks really, really cool. It's got tons of ice all over it. And we have a lot of these really tall grasses behind me that have this nice golden color. So that might make for a really interesting foreground for our sunset shot. So I'm gonna spend a little time walking around here just with my phone out, trying to take some sample photos and compositions before I even get my camera out and put it on my tripod or anything like that. Because I wanna make sure I have something really good locked down first, and not just put my tripod down wherever I think looks good right off the bat, right? It's not a race. We want to take our time to find a good spot. Figured I'd share this with you guys really quickly. This giant piece of driftwood behind me. It's kind of like the Mesa arch of driftwood. Looks really cool. I'm trying to get out of the wind as much as I possibly can, but I did some scouting on my phone, and there's two nice trails that lead up to the beach. And on either side has this really nice tall long grass that you see behind me. There's a wider trail and a smaller trail, and I think for tonight I really like the way the smaller trail looks, so I think I'm going to start heading over towards there, maybe just 20 feet over that way, and I'm going to start setting up to get our shot because it is almost time for sunset right now, and I think this is probably going to be the last bit of recording that I do because it is so cold and so windy here, and I do not want to have to change batteries. So once this one is done, it's done. But yeah, here's hoping that we get a really good shot. So the shoot has just concluded. It is about 7:39. It was one of those days where you could tell that post sunset there wasn't going to be any light on the clouds, and not only that, but for the particular shot that I went with, there was no more light being cast upon those really tall grasses, and for me that was one of the major things I really liked about that particular shot. So once the sun went below the horizon, that's when I knew to call it there for that particular angle. I walked down to the break wall right on the edge of the beach there and took some higher shutter speed photos of the waves crashing up against the wall. Got some cool photos of some seagulls. Hopefully they turned out okay, and the focus was able to snag the one perfectly in flight. It might have been a ring-billed gull, as those are pretty common around here. I think we also have a herring gull. I think that's another one that we get, but it's not as common. I could be wrong though. But overall, I would say it's a success. And I also must say that was one of the coldest and most bitter experiences I've had on the shores of Lake Erie. I've taken plenty of photos in plenty of different spots, and it's been cold. It's been frigid. It's been miserable. But this spot on this day with the winds that we're having might honestly take the cake. Like, it was bad, and I'm glad I brought gloves and a hat. The only thing I wish I would have brought is a face mask, which I took to me for Letchworth. I could have grabbed it, but I just didn't think I'd need it, and I was wrong. But yeah, let's go home and put these photos on the computer and get a good look at them in Lightroom and see what we got. Welcome back to the studio, everybody, and what a successful shoot that was. Really love that location. Tons of potential for amazing compositions there. I just can't wait till it gets a little bit warmer and we can get out to the break wall and some of those grasses start standing upright, and who knows what it's going to look like during the summer and even into the fall, right? I'm very, very excited to go back to this place at various different points in the year. And speaking of going back, I actually went back the following day, went back yesterday. So I went 2 days in a row. So this is now 2 days after the little bit of vlog that I filmed while I was there. And I wanted to go back, not only just because I really like the area, but there was one particular composition that I thought would be really cool to do. And I wanted to give it a try. And I did give it a try, and I'm really glad that I did because it turned out really, really promising. And I think we can really, really nail it. The only problem is we're going to have to wait a long time to really, really nail it the way I want to, which is fine. Gives me something to look forward to photography-wise, and I'll explain more about that. And it might have something to do with that Mesa Arch driftwood that I was talking about, or it looks like Mesa Arch kind of. But let's take a look at the photos here. We're going to go ahead and look at Lightroom to start. So as you can see, here is the first photo. Again, these are a part of a bracket, so they're going to start very dark and get much lighter. And as you can see here, this was the main composition that I ended up going with. And I think I ended up using this first bracket here, this particular image, and you can see I've already edited it just a little bit, changed it to Adobe Landscape. I think I left the white balance the same, up the exposure by a half a stop, contrast about 20, and you know, there is the various changes to the highlights, shadows, whites, and blacks, dehaze, vibrance, and saturation, just a little bit of each of those. And I think that's all I ended up doing to it in Lightroom, and it already looks really, really good. Now, I had a bunch of other photos over here. Yeah, there's a bracket over here, two particular brackets that I have selected. And you can see the sun is a little bit lower in the sky here. I think this was an attempt at a possible focus stack, but after looking at a couple of different photos, right, if I zoom in here into the grasses, right, on this particular bracket, that's the 0 exposure, and I go here, they look roughly the same. And I think with the f-stop that I was shooting at and how far away these grasses were from the lens, and I probably could have calculated the hyperfocal distance using the PhotoPills app on my phone for how far infinity is away, like how far the focus of infinity is at f11 with the camera settings that I had. So I probably didn't need to focus stack at f11. But one thing I was noticing, and I don't know if this is just my eyes playing tricks on me or whatever, it was extremely windy, obviously, and I felt like that was probably introducing some camera shake. So I was really picky with looking out towards these distant shores here and seeing just how sharp they ended up looking in comparison to other ones. And as you can see here, it almost looks like this one looks a little bit softer than if I were to go to this other bracket here. This one looks maybe a tad bit sharper. But if I go back to this one here, I think I wanted to use this one here because this one looked probably the cleanest. Yeah, as you can see, that edge there. I mean, they kind of look similar, but I feel like they maybe have a little camera shake introduced to them. And then as the night went further on, I felt like I didn't like a lot of these brackets nearly as much because the sun was getting lower and lower in the sky. And with that happening, we were losing less and less light on these beautiful grasses that were here. Yeah, so even if I go to like the lowest exposure here in this bracket, you can see there really aren't many highlights left on the grasses, whereas if I go over here into a lower part of this bracket, I think this is a 7-step bracket, but you can see that there's just a little bit more highlight there, and especially if you tweak some of the settings like I've done here, those grasses really start to pop like they were when I was there. So that is the reason why I went with those, and I really like it quite a bit. I like this path as a great leading line out to the shore, and I think it's overall just a really beautiful scene. I ended up taking a few other photos as well here of the break wall. I don't think I'll really do much with these. I really like this one though because I caught this wave there mid-crash. This was shot at f4.52 because I wanted to be at a very high shutter speed at ISO 3200, 1/500, so a very, very fast shutter speed because I wanted to catch one of those waves mid-crash. And you can see a lot of those seagulls out there just hovering around in the wind. Very, very cool to see that. And so yeah, with the f4, you know, the depth of field is a little bit more narrow, so I think the photo probably gets a little softer towards the outside, as maybe I was focused more in the middle there, and as you can see the bokeh there in the foreground, all of this is very, very out of focus, which is going to happen in a 4.5, your depth of field getting a lot thinner. And this is from a slightly different angle. I like this one a little bit. I highlighted it just because it has this nice leading line here of these waves going into the break wall and then going out. So again, two very similar photos, but both with kind of like little different aspects to them. And then I have this photo here, handheld shot I got of this ring-billed gull flying through the air. Very, very cool shot. And then I got this one as well. This one I think I like the most. This one I made 4 stars because this is a really great silhouette shot. Not only do we have this gull here, but we have these 3 other gulls slightly out of focus because we again are shooting at f4.5, and we have this other one there. And I think the clouds create these nice diagonals across the frame. And I think this would honestly make for a pretty decent black and white because it is a relatively kind of two-tone image. But I haven't done anything with it yet. I might do something with it in the future. So that was the day 1 shoot. And we're going to go to Photoshop now where I have the final edit here. And as you can see, I think the more and more I look at this photo, the more I like it. Like everything about it just pops. There's tons of vibrant colors. There's a lot of detail in the grasses. I love the leading lines of this little path again. The clouds look great. I love the shoreline there on the left side. I love the details in the waves. I like that it's a more turbulent evening. You can definitely tell that by some of the motion in the grass. Now, typically, I wouldn't be a fan of this. I would view this more as like a mistake, right? That the grasses are blurry. But, I mean, I could have corrected that had I opted to shoot at a really high shutter speed, which meant I would have to shoot at a higher ISO. I didn't really want to do that. I didn't want to introduce any unnecessary noise into the photo, and I kind of like that it helps to tell the story of this particular evening. It was super windy. You can tell by the waves. You can tell by the movement in the grasses, and I really, really like that. So that was that photo, and let's take a look at a few of the other photos that I edited from the following day that I went there, because I think those turned out really, really good as well. Here is one of the first images that I want to show you guys. I have 3 to show you, but this one I am titling, actually I don't really have a title for it at the moment. Maybe somebody in the comments could help me with a title. But I didn't want to name it just yet because I have a very, very, very similar angle that I can show you guys in Lightroom that I've yet to edit, that I want to edit. But I wanted to edit this one first, mainly because it was a focus stack, and I thought a focus stack of this shot would be very promising, where I was able to focus in on these grasses here, and then focus basically from this piece of driftwood here out into the horizon. And yeah, this one turned out really good. This is that composition that I was talking about, where I wanted to get the camera low to the ground, use those grasses as a nice foreground element and potentially leading lines. They do kind of point out towards the horizon, and kind of get the sun right underneath this large, you know, tree, or what was once a tree. And I kind of managed to do that. There is a little bit of like a shrub there that is kind of blocking the view of the sun directly. And this is what I was saying about how we can get this shot to look amazing, but it's going to be a long while before we get to that point, because we need the sun setting just a little bit to the left, and we're in that time of the year where the sun is starting to set more and more to the right, at least from our position that we are right now. So this is probably going to be a shot that we're going to need to get in like maybe January, and hope that there's no snow on the ground at that point, which might be pretty tough to do. given the area that I live in. We get plenty of snow right along the lake, but I could see that being a really, really nice shot with the sun setting where my cursor is. A really nice bright sun with a big starburst, like F-16 starburst would look fantastic. But I think this is a good sort of precursor to that shot that we could get in the future. Now let's take a look at this one. I'm titling Flourishing Shores. This was like originally a handheld shot, but I ended up locking my camera down on a tripod with this one. And it's very, very simple composition. I like it quite a bit. And this one I think was a blend. Yes, you can see I blend in a better exposed sky. And very, very simple blend there. Added in some Color Effects Pro. I went a little bit crazier with the skylight filter to introduce some more oranges to those grasses because I really wanted to emphasize the sun really beating down on these nice grasses here and giving them a nice golden color. Went and did a little blue reduction again on some of the driftwood there. Not as noticeable here, but it is noticeable enough, especially if I zoom in here and I toggle it on and off. There it is off, there it is on. Again, it does help to kind of separate them from the sand and other features. Dodge and burn on the grasses again. Always love doing that here. Object removal on some weird things in the beach, like, I don't know what this was. There's like a cup here, some green thing there. Just ended up getting rid of some distractions. Whole bunch of seagulls there. I could have gotten rid of them, but I wanted to keep them. And what is possibly the biggest distraction, there was a couple of people over here that ended up getting rid of as well, and I think I got rid of them pretty seamlessly. And there were some seagulls in flight over here, which I was also going to get rid of, but they're not really super noticeable, and I think it adds to the photo, especially since there's a bunch of seagulls right here. Why not leave them over there as well? Midtones, I think I did, what did we do here? Just a little bit of contrast in the midtones and a high pass filter, which I elected to just do from here down. And I wanted to leave the sky out of it because the sky didn't really have a ton of detail in it. The clouds were really soft and wispy, so I didn't want to go ahead and sharpen them. And then just a signature. So there was that one. And this is the last one that I ended up editing last night. This one I call Relic. And this is a pano I actually took of this giant piece of driftwood that looks like an arch. And I think it turned out really, really, really good. It was a nightmare to try to set up my pano gimbal in time and try to get my tripod level. I'm lucky that this even stitched as well as it did because I tried stitching another one a little bit later on, and this right side of the frame was completely lopsided and there was no fixing it. So I'm extremely lucky that I got this one to work any way that I could. So we'll go ahead and here look at the adjusted raw. We add in our Color Effects Pro, little dodge and burn on the grasses, blue channel, little blue reduction there, pretty much across a lot of the driftwood there. And then the midtones, we add a little bit of contrast. Super highlights, we just toned down the highlights in the sky. Object removal of pretty much the same stuff I removed in one of the other, the driftwood arch, the first one I showed you guys, but there's a couple other things here since there was a pen, I think looked like some kind of cigarette or something, and then like a feather, ended up getting rid of those. And this plastic cup actually missed the first time, so I had to come back and get that in another layer. But we added a high pass and a signature and then a secondary object removal, which I'm glad I went and did and got rid of that little piece of whatever that was there. So now it is all completely cleaned up. But yeah, there it is. There is the before and there's the after. Just adding quite a bit of pop and vibrance to this photo, and I think it goes a long way. Now, really quickly before I wrap this video up, I will show you guys some of the photos from the second day that I was there. This is a shot that I really have yet to edit. So this is the photo right here. And as you can see, it's very similar to the focus stack art shot. The only difference here is we have a beautiful kind of starburst coming through that shrub there and leaving those nice little red lines that you get in a starburst. So I kind of want to edit this one. It's not a focus stack, so the grasses down here, as you can see, aren't as sharp, and it is a little bit noisier because this was handheld also. I was really panicking because I think after this point, after this failed pano here, I was like, all right, let's put the pano gimbal away. Hopefully I got at least one decent pano that will stitch. Let's just do some handheld shots because I was really scrambling, man. I didn't expect things to turn out as well as they would there the last second, but they really started to pan out. And this one is pretty much ready for Photoshop with all the edits that I've already done to it here. And if I toggle it, this is straight out of camera, and this is after a little bit of editing. But yeah, I can't wait to take this one into Photoshop and see which of the two I like better, the one that's a focus stack or the one that isn't a focus stack, but we have that beautiful starburst there. I think that might add to it very well. It is F11 starburst, so it does have some nice structure to it as is. But that is the shoot. I definitely want to get some of these photos printed in the future. And speaking of photos printed, hopefully my one photo should be done framing today. At least that's what they told me. So, and then we can start the printing video. But yeah, that is going to do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for checking out the vlog today. And we'll see you guys back here very, very soon. Thanks for watching.